Okay, welcome to G-Period Finance class, our next to the last class for the year. It is, what day is it? It's Tuesday, May 19th. All right. Here's the plan for the day. We're going to watch 2, maybe 3 videos still on chapter 11, which is careers and taxes. And then I'm going to give you an exercise I'll load in the Blackbaud on how to read a pay stub. It'll go over some terminology as part of the worksheet. And then I provide you a pay stub. And then you got to kind of, all right, how much did you pay in Social Security? How much you pay in Medicare? Those type questions. Just you guys that are already working for an entity where you're getting a pay stub, you've probably become pretty proficient how to do so because it's your money and it's you want to see what Uncle Sam is taking of your money that you never even get your hands on. But hopefully, we'll get back in it, and some of it back. We'll get Social Security and Medicare back for a few years, but the other stuff hopefully you'll get back when you file your taxes before April of the next year. Couple things. If any of you guys are getting ready or in the process of looking for summer jobs and you're going out and interviewing, I was going to say, there's a couple things. If you go to that foundationsu.com website, there's a template there to create a resume. So if you want to have a nice little resume to walk in the door with, you can create it right on there. It's formatted for you. You just got to print it out. Once you complete it, it does a pretty nice job, and it does it fairly quickly. A resume is not an end all for job hiring. It really is kind of just a brief bio of yourself, your education, prior experiences, awards, and then contact information. So it's kind of it's almost like an embellished business card that you can leave with them when you walk out of the interview, that they have to get back in touch with you. Hopefully they'll offer you a job. So if you need to create a resume, you're out already pounding the pavements here the next few weeks for a summer job, that's a quick and easy way to create a resume, in really short order that looks pretty darn professional. So take advantage of that if you want. Also, if I mentioned this last time, no one said anything. If you're going in for a job interview, one of the exercises this quarter, which are for this chapter, which if we were all here, I'd break you up into groups of 2, is it has a sample of typical interview type questions. All right. And the advantage of having that in your hand before you go into interview for a company is you kind of have, probably 70% of the questions you get asked in an interview are whether it's working at Panera Bread or working at Chipotle or wherever, the questions, everybody uses kind of the same questions, at least 70% of them, and some of them are unique for the company or the job you're going to do. And if you already kind of have formulated in your mind what your kind of pat or canned answer is going to be, it looks, you just like, hey, I got, this guy's got his act together, and he can, he knows what's going on, knows which ends it up and all. So if you want those sample questions, just tell me. Trying to figure out what's the best way. I could just load them on Blackbaud as a document. When I do that, I'll load them on Blackbaud as a document on Thursday. Not as an exercise, but for you to have if you kind of want to get a little better prep when you walk in the door for a job interview. All right. Let's see, Thursday's the last day of class. They've told us that no late submissions of work for this quarter can be submitted after Thursday. So if you want to check behind me in Blackbaud, make sure I haven't missed anything. There are some things early when Blackbaud was down for a week, some things may have gotten lost in the shuffle. I've got some things here that folks submitted with no names on it that I can't assign, just arbitrarily assign to people. So between now, like today or tomorrow, check to see if you've got any missing work that you can submit no later than Thursday. You may be sitting there that you've already submitted it, which you may well have, but it could have been lost when Blackbaud was down via the Dropbox, or it could be sitting over here in a stack of probably, I don't know, 2.5 dozen documents of stuff I have over here with no names on it. Okay.
Sir, I came in late. What did I miss the first couple minutes? Sorry, I've been grinding Latin homework.
Just a series of announcements. If I have time, I'll go over them at the end of class.
Do we have homework tonight?
You will have an assignment. I'll go over it towards the end of class once more on how to read a pay stub.
Dang, that's crazy, sir. I got so much homework, but all right.
You can handle it. There's 4 classes a day versus 8 classes a day. Pretty sweet deal.
I don't know, sir. These 4 classes have really been kicking me in the behind.
I don't know. Let me roll up my pant legs because I think it's kind of starting to get a little deep in here.
Oh, sir.
All right, sir. Let's talk pay stubs.
Okay. All right. Mr. Landis, I'm going back over. You never took the Chapter 6 quiz online, or at least there's no score for you. So if, it's still open. So if you want that quiz score in there, other than the 0, make sure you do that before Thursday. Mr. Gray, Mr. Landis, Mr. Tolan, your camera's all working okay today?
Ooh.
Technically, you're supposed to have them on.
Ooh.
So we can all see your smiling faces and make sure it's not an imposter, like maybe the other Gray, that kind of thing.
Sir, kick him out.
Sir, love you.
I don't know it's you. Oh, there he is.
Do you like my beard?
Did you lose your razor?
Sir, stop cooking. I know you like it.
Right, brother.
Paula. Jeb. Yeah.
Lost the razor, but found the snack pantry.
Oh!
Yeah, I just need the one from yesterday. All right. I got you.
Mr. Landis, how's your camera doing today? Mr. Landis, Mr. Tolan.
Well, sir, I would turn it on, but unless you want some random person in Henderson, North Carolina watching your every move, I would not turn it on.
Sir, Tolan's works. He was on earlier.
Yeah, Tolan, yeah. Where's Cody at too? Where's Cody?
Where'd Cody go? Let's see.
Cody's on 2K right now.
We're looking at I can see his ceiling.
Oh,
Cody! Sir, Cody just turned on his PS4. He's playing video games. I just saw him get on it.
Whoa!
Yeah.
What'd you guys
ruined him blue toots in the hair.
Blue boots.
All right. So we ready? Any questions on careers and taxes? Like I said, we're going to do 2 videos, maybe a third, depending on how the time runs for us.
Sir, how are you today?
About the
Sir, Boston burrito.
Exercise. You ready to go?
No.
Go. This. Get you guys out of the way.
Sometimes people think that if I just got a degree, everything would be okay. If I just had that skill set, I'd be okay. Don't get confused with that either. There's a great book out called EQ, Emotional Quotient, as opposed to IQ. It's juxtaposed to that, in other words. And what they found in the studies they did for that book was that in the formula that creates success, only 15% of what creates success is formal training in academics. 85% of what creates success is passion, perseverance, character traits and attributes, integrity, things like that are what cause people to win long term. It's not the next degree. It's not, if I just had that class, I would be over the top. No, you wouldn't. You wouldn't. You need to get the class and you need to get the knowledge and grow. There's nothing wrong with academics. Learn. But quit thinking if I just gather up another degree, then I'll be successful. Success is more about other things than it is about just gathering up degrees in academics.
I hope you never stop learning. Long after this class, I hope you're still engaged with the world around you and the people in your life. And one of the ways you can do that is by studying successful people. Through books or even just conversations, you can really learn a lot about how somebody else succeeded. You can find hurdles they jumped or holes they missed, and you can not do that in your own life too. And that's what I've done the last few years. That's one of the reasons I love working with the Dave Ramsey team. There's so many talented people here that I get to learn from. And over the years, what I've learned is that there's 5 things that successful people always do. And I want to share those principles with you today. And as I share them, I'd love for you to write down an idea next to each one. What's one way that you can apply each of these principles to your life? So as I say them, think about your own life, in your own challenges, in your own opportunities. How do you do these things? Number 1, they start. Successful people always start. They're a group full of starters. They don't get stuck. They don't wait. They don't let doubt creep in and pause them and delay them. They start. They start a new project. They start a new goal. They start a new dream. They're constantly starting because they know that you can never finish something you haven't started. And so they're always starters. Number 2, they fight fear. They have fear. Don't ever believe that you're the only one that has fear. Everyone has some degree of fear. Each new thing you try carries with it a degree of fear. But leaders, successful people, fight their fear. They admit it. They acknowledge it.
She better, yeah. She probably
And they
will.
push through. They don't let
She's like
regret
obsessed
and fear
with you. It's
bog them
insane.
down. That's the
Mike,
challenge about
she's
regret.
like,
It
Are
always
you
wants
sure
you
you
to
see
give.
that you look broke? Are you sure? Like, whatever you
Hey
gotta do.
guys, I think
Yeah,
it's
your
really-
mic's on, bro.
I'm not
make
upset.
sure
at
you, make sure you mute
You don't
yourself.
understand how obsessed she is with you.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah, mute yourself, please.
Your
My
present
bad, bro.
to your past so that you don't have a future. But if you want to be successful, you've got to fight fear. Number 3, they ignore haters. Granted, they take feedback, they take input, even input that might not be fun to receive. But at the end of the day, they know there's a big difference between input and hate. And they very deliberately put hate on the side. They move past hate because they realize that sometimes when you chase your dream, other people take it as a grand insult because it reminds them that they're not chasing their own dream and they take it personally. Number 4, great leaders, successful people stay humble and hungry. That was a real surprise to me. When I joined Dave Ramsey's team, I got my dream job, if you will, and I thought, okay, dream jobs are kind of fun and easy and you run through a field with flowers and a ribbon and lavender, woo! That hasn't been the experience. I've gotten up at 4 a.m. more than I ever have in my life for early flights or video shoots, and I hustle harder. Why? Because you'll always work harder at something you love than something you like. And successful people work on the things they love. And they also stay humble along the way. They don't put themselves on a pedestal. They don't think they're all that. They don't think they've arrived because they know that ego will damage what they're trying to do. And number 5, the last of all the things that successful people do, they give to others. They realize that in their life, they have things to give to others. Their time, their resources, their expertise. They go out of their way to support their community. They start groups where they can give back to others. They mentor people. They find ways to give to the people in their life. So that's my hope for you and I. As we look at our lives, as we think about how do I be successful? What does it look like to do work that matters? Let's keep those in mind. And I hope you wrote them down and wrote a few ideas by each one. How can you start? How can you fight fear? How can you ignore the haters in your life? How do you stay humble and hungry? And above all, how do you give to others?
Over the years, I've been able to talk to a lot of men and women at all different income levels and at all different levels of wealth. I've met people making $150,000 a year who are flat broke and up to their eyeballs in debt. And I've met people making $50,000 a year who are debt-free, building wealth, and winning with money. How is that possible? How can it be that someone's winning at money, only making $50,000 a year, while someone else is losing big time while they're making $150,000 a year? The answer may surprise you. I think I've discovered one of the most powerful life-changing traits of the super successful. I think this one thing is so fundamental that it's impossible to be financially successful without it. If you grasp this concept, you can have virtually anything you want. You can be whoever you want to be. You can do whatever you want to do. You'll be able to save and invest and give more than you ever thought possible. Your relationships will be richer, they'll be deeper, and this is really one of the most powerful financial principles that I can think of. But most people totally leave it out of their plan and out of their life. What am I talking about? I'm talking about contentment. People don't understand contentment, especially today. Some think contentment means apathy or laziness. The world is addicted to bigger and better. So the idea of actually slowing down and enjoying what you have with a sense of gratitude before moving on to the next big thing, it's kind of a joke these days. When you're in high school, you feel like the whole world is open right in front of you, and it is. You feel like you can do anything and be anything, and you can. And you could go anywhere, and you could. All you have are options. That's great. But it can be pretty dangerous if you aren't careful. You could end up just pinning your happiness to different things out there in the future. You might say, I'll be happy when I graduate from high school. And then you graduate from high school. And then you say, I'll be happy when I get to college. And then you get to college. And you say, I'll be happy when I move out of my parents' house for good. And then you get there and you say, I'll be happy when I get a job and start making some money. And then you do. And then you say, I'll be happy when I meet that special lady or that perfect guy, get married and buy a house with 2.3 kids and a picket fence. Without contentment, your whole life will just be jumping from one thing to another, always hoping the next thing is going to be that thing that will make you happy. It's just not going to happen. Contentment is not a destination. It's not a place you get to. It's a manner of the traveling. It's how you do the journey. It's an attitude that influences everything you do with money. If you leave it out of your plan, you'll never feel like you have enough of anything. And trust me, that's no way to live.
As an author and a public speaker, I get to travel a lot. I spend a lot of time on airplanes, and sometimes I have really interesting conversations with the people I sit next to. I remember one flight. I was going from Dallas to Baltimore, and these two grandmothers sat next to me. They were probably in their 70s or maybe 80s. And during the flight, I gave the lady sitting next to me a copy of my book, Quitter. Now, I promise I don't do that on every flight. I don't wear cargo pants full of my books and go, oh, it's in my pocket. I didn't even know that was there. I'll sign it. Wall Street Journal bestseller. Please, no flash photography. It dries my pores. But I gave her a copy of the book because we were talking about dreaming and working on your passions. And she started to read it, which for an author is an awkward experience because you kind of sit there and out of the corner of your eye start to look and go, is it changing her life right now? Are her teeth already brighter with my wisdom? Oh, she got out a highlighter. But after reading for about an hour, she leaned over and she asked me a question. And it was a question I wasn't expecting. It was a question I didn't have an answer to at the moment. And this is what she said. She said, hey, what do you do when all the excuses that you use to not chase your dream are gone? What do you do when you're out of excuses? What do you do then? And suddenly there was this profound sadness on that airplane. Because for the first time, she was looking back on her life and realizing that life had passed her by. It had gone quickly. And I started to think, how do you and I not get to that moment? How do you and I not get to 80 or 90 and look back on our lives and realize we mortgaged them doing things we didn't feel called to do, things we didn't love doing for 60 years? How do we not get there? Because life moves quickly, doesn't it? I mean, if you're a senior in high school, you already feel that, right? I mean, high school went by fast, and college is going to go by even faster. How do you make sure you don't miss life? And so I started to explore that question. I started to research that question. I started studying successful lives and unsuccessful lives. And what I realized was really surprising. Having a successful life, having an awesome life, if you will, only involves 5 things. You have to go through 5 different lands on this road called life. And I didn't create those, I just labeled them. They've always been there. And the first land that you enter if you want to have an awesome life is called learning. And during this stage, you try a lot of different things. You don't know who you are yet or what you're all about. You have a bunch of different jobs and a bunch of different passions. You have a lot of different friendships. Maybe you even move cities if you're out of school, and you change jobs and you learn, and you're new and you're an amateur, and it's okay. You try all these different things. The next step, the next season is called editing. You say, okay, I did these 100 things. These are the 10 that mattered most to me. These are the 10 I really want to explore. And you start to edit your life. You start to remove things that don't matter and focus on the things that do. In mastering the next step, you start to get really good at what you care about. You start to become an expert. You start to focus. As authors like Malcolm Gladwell have said, it takes 10,000 hours to become an expert. This is when you start to accumulate those hours and you get really good at that thing. And the next step, the fourth step, you go through a time of harvesting. All those decisions you've made start to come home. All those things you've planted start to come home. And in the fifth and last stage, you go through a period of guiding. You start to help other people down their own path. You start to reach back and pull people along in the same direction you went. Now, when you realize this, when you find that there's 5 lands, it becomes really easy to see how they work. I mean, for instance, the first 3 don't happen unless you make them happen. You won't learn, edit, and master by accident. Nobody wakes up one day and says, I'd never played chess, but all of a sudden, I'm a chess master. I can play chess like a pro. No, you have to be deliberate. But those last 2 stages will happen regardless of what you do. You will harvest and you will guide. You just might harvest things that people don't want to harvest. And instead of guiding and being somebody's mentor, you become a lighthouse indicating rocks you crashed your life on. You become what I call an anti-mentor, where people look at your life and think, I want to do the opposite. So that's what I love talking about, is giving you a place on that map, helping you see, okay, I'm in learning and here's what I need to do. Or maybe you're in mastering, but those are the 5 stages. If you want to be awesome, if you want to get to the end of your life and sit on a plane next to an author and say, wow, the years were important. They mattered. I changed my life and I changed the world. These are the 5 steps you have to take.
All right. I failed to mention when I started the video, most of this whole discussion revolved around, if you've got, still have your workbook available, it's on page 236. It talks about the 5 lands on the road to awesome. He just went over the learning, editing, mastering, harvesting, and guiding. All right. And then the 5 things successful people always do, which is they fight fear, ignore the haters, stay humble and hungry, and give to others. Now, you can actually go onto the Digital's website, like where you took the quizzes and tests. In these you can replay these videos. You've got access to them. And, I'm going to open up. I've got all the chapters we've covered open, 1 through 7, and this is actually chapter 11. I'm going to open up the other chapters. So if you're looking for things to do, as you go through the early part of the summer and you want to look at some of these other chapters, you can watch the videos along with your workbook and get some quality materials and information out of that. Any thoughts on anything you saw there or questions?
How much money do you think Dave Ramsey got?
Say it once more.
How much money do you think Dave Ramsey has? Like,
I don't know. I first started listening to him on the radio back, and I'm kind of 4 years ago. He had 400 employees, and now he's got over 1,000. And he just built I'm kind of wagging at the number, but he just moved into his headquarters are outside of Nashville. I can't remember the town, but it's basically it's a suburb of Nashville, and he just built with cash, no mortgage, no rent, like a 6-story office complex for his 1,000+ employees with no debt. So he's making money hand over fist. If you've listened to him live on the radio, and he's on the radio every day, I think it's actually taped from 2 to 5, but you can hear it on Sirius at any time. You can hear it on Of course, you can hear it on iHeartRadio anytime. He's got channels there. He's got on Sirius, he's on like in the morning. I know when I drive into work from like 6 to 9, which is a replay of the previous afternoon's taping. And then he's on Sirius also from 2 to 5. And then he's got, buku YouTube channels. And then he's got all these what they call Ramsey personalities, like that gentleman there, and several others that all have written, best-selling books. So I think the radio broadcast just really is almost, it's almost like an infomercial. It advertises all their products. This class here is very expensive. You guys paid $45 for this class, and it was like $20 for the book, and then like $25 for this online access to the to the supplemental materials and these videos. So he's making a ton of money. And he started from a card table in his living room after he went bankrupt at age 27 because his parents were in real estate, and he got into it, and he had I've heard anywhere from 30 to 50 properties, but he had them, he was mortgaging them to the hilt. He was using a little bit of equity in earlier properties to buy more, and then all of a sudden the economy took a downturn, which I think was like an 86, 88 time frame, and the banks called their money due, and he didn't have any liquidity to pay them off, so he went into bankruptcy. And that's from losing being a multimillionaire, at least in non-liquid capital, be it the real estate he was buying. He went bankrupt, and that's where this kind of evolved or started from. I mean, they do seminars throughout the year all over the country, 1, 2, 3 day seminars that, is where they make a lot of their money. Their books, they make a lot of money. When this thing all went into, when COVID started back 2.5 months ago, he had all kinds of specials on his books. And you can get most of his books for, when they have them on sale, for $10. But I think that's where a lot of the income comes from. I'm not sure if we're going to use his materials next year, because when I reserved these materials this year, I locked in a price over the summer, and then which came to about $45 a person, and then I held off actually purchasing it for the school until like November, since we kind of reversed the order, because we were going to do the finance part of this first and the accounting part second, but it was reversed on us. So then when I kind of finalized the deal in November, they wanted another $600 for the online technology part of this, which we kind of balked at, and finally they agreed on the original price negotiated back over the summer. So they're making lots of money.
Do you think a lot of schools are doing like what we're doing, or
Yeah, he says on his radio station that 2 million high school students have taken this class, and this class has been around about 3 or 4 years.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So
That's crazy.
this is very similar. I think he still uses the name. It's called Financial Peace University, and it's a very similar version of this that they teach. It's mostly comes out of some of the same or very similar materials. It's a 9-week, 1 night a week class for 3 hours, and it's done mostly through churches. And I think he said, I think that's up in like the 20 or 30 or $60 million. 60 million people have taken that version of it, but it's more geared towards adults. It's geared towards adults, but it's a lot of the same philosophies and approaches. So, any other thoughts or questions?
No, it was good information.
One girl that speaks a lot, Rachel Cruz, that's one of his daughters, actually. So, all right, let's see. Yeah, we got time for one more. Give me a second here I got to unshare this, I think, to bring this back up. Let's see. Give me a second here to try to get to the next one without running into a problem. Give me a second. And this is a real short one. And if you're using your workbook, we're on page 237.
When I was a teenager, the word mentoring sounded really weird to me. It sounded really formal, and that I'd have to wear a suit and I'd have to see this person all the time. They'd probably have a beard, like a really wise looking beard and professor glasses, and maybe we'd sit together in rocking chairs, and that seemed really weird, and I did not want to do that. But over the years, I've really started to value what it means to be led. And that's what mentoring is about, finding someone that'll help lead your life. And I want to take some of the confusion away from it. I want to take some of the complications away from it, because it's actually really simple. If you want to find a mentor, here's how you find one. You find somebody that you'd like to be like someday. You look at somebody in your life and go, if I ended up there, would it feel successful? Would I be happy with that? And you find that person and you send them one short email. See, here's the pressure. A lot of times people think to find a mentor, I have to find somebody that I have coffee with every day for the next 60 years, and when we die, we'll hold hands in the cemetery. And then they put this pressure on, they have to find this perfect human. You don't. Find one person that has one part of their life in a way that you'd like to live too, and ask them one question. Can I take you out to coffee? That's it. Can I buy you coffee someday? You see, most people like to share their expertise. The people that will mentor you, the people that will lead you, enjoy giving their expertise and enjoy sharing that wisdom. So ask one person out to one coffee. Don't write a long email. If you write a 10-page email, they're not going to read that. Ask them out to coffee. When you go to coffee, ask about their life. Figure out, is this somebody that has something to teach me? And don't look for a perfect person. That's the other pressure. Don't try to find somebody that has perfect husband, perfect dad, perfect business person. I mean, there might be somebody in your life that you go, I love the way they do business, but I'm not ready to talk about being a dad yet. So I just want to hear their business ideas. I mean, maybe you want to find somebody that went to the same college you went to, and they don't have to be 60. A mentor is just somebody who's one step ahead of you. So if you're a junior, you can find a senior who's a mentor and go, hey, can you help me navigate junior year? If you're a senior, you can find a college sophomore who's a mentor that'll help you navigate that too. And the great thing about mentoring is that when you are led, you get to run faster. And I saw this happen at the Olympics once. During the Olympics, they had an 800-meter race. And the guy who won it was a Kenyan named Rudisha. And Rudisha ran so fast that he inspired every other runner in that race. 7 of the 8 people in that race set their personal records. The 5th place finisher, the American, would have won gold at every other Olympics except for one. And when I read an article about it, the article said Rudisha pulled those other racers like a powerboat pulling skiers behind him. If you want to go fast, if you really want to achieve success, be led. I mean, that's why I joined Dave Ramsey's team. To be under his leadership, to be under his authority, to learn from him and the talented people that work for him. I don't have all the answers yet, but I know to ask the right questions. And the right question to start with is, will you go to coffee with me? That can be the beginning of a powerful, powerful relationship for you. And so my hope is you'll be led. Don't try to go it alone. Find somebody else who's walked that path and ask them, where are the potholes? Where are the opportunities? Where are the things I need to be careful about? Because when you're mentored, when you're led, you get to go fast and you get to success a lot sooner.
All right, mentoring. Let me give you a couple personal experiences with that. I've got 3 children, one that graduated with a master's last year from UVA, one that graduated with a bachelor's from UVA last weekend, so to speak, and one that's got one more semester down at Davidson. And speaking of mentoring, mentoring is another way, the old phraseology of terminology for that is it's not what you know, but who you know. Let me give you a couple of personal experiences where mentoring can benefit you. One of my twins that's at Davidson, he plays soccer for them. He's played for a USL2 team the last 2 summers. Over this past school year, he was teaching a goalkeeper, high school goalkeeper at Davidson, which is a suburb of Charlotte. And the dad was so impressed with him that he now has hired him to intern for the summer, where he's developing a subsidiary company of his main company that's developing products for the PPE or the protective equipment, the wipes, the masks, the sanitizers, as a result of all this COVID stuff. So, I mean, my son didn't work with him professionally, but he I guess was impressed with him enough that he kind of, again, mentored him or brought him under his wing to kind of develop this new company that's come about as a result of what's happened here just in the last 3 months. Similarly, his twin was offered a job out in Las Vegas it was actually a fraternity brother's father who's out in Vegas, and he invited my son to come out there for the summer, paid for his transportation back and forth, his lodging, his meals, 2 trips home over the summer to write code for him, because he was developing kind of the kayak version for Las Vegas, where you could jump from casino to casino and use it for online betting, for sports betting and that kind of thing. Again, it wasn't really, I mean, it was partially due to what he knew, my son, but really not what he knew, but more so who he knew. So this mentoring, even though it was only a 4-minute video, the impression you make on people, could lead to employment and careers that, you would have never thought there was a connection there. You guys at Scarfit Golf, there is a ton of deals made on the golf course. I played high school and college golf, and now works for Deloitte, which is one of the big 5 accounting firms up in Tyson's Corner. And once they found out that she had a pretty decent golf game, she gets invited to play in more fundraisers, golf tournaments, of course, not in the last 3 months, golf tournaments than you could imagine. So there's mentorships can come in many different ways, shapes, and forms. And you never know who's kind of, over there on the sidelines looking at you, and, maybe has some business dealings or opportunities that they'd like to bring you under their wing, quote unquote, mentoring, when you least expect it, or aren't even out there, scratching around for a job. So kind of gets back to that character. You never know who's watching or who's looking at you. So always have the best character that you can have.
Mr. Gaffney.
Yes, sir.
You don't get a second chance to make a first impression, sir.
Exactly. You never know who's there on the sidelines watching. All right. I don't have, the next video is 11 minutes. We don't have time to do it, but we've got 2 more videos for this chapter, so we'll wrap that up and have some parting remarks on Thursday. Give me a little bit of time after class, and I'll download the exercise on how to read a pay stub. So it'll be what it is. It's a 2-page front and back with some questions. There's a sample pay stub, and they just really want you to analyze how to read a pay stub, which is important because I see employees here. You just don't want to take that pay stub and throw it in the cubby hole, or throw it on a desk, because mistakes can be made. And you want to know where your money's going. You want to make sure the right amount of taxes are being held out, so that come April 15th, you don't owe,
Coach.
$8,000 in taxes for the previous year. So you want to be able to read a pay stub to make sure, one, everything's going where it's supposed to be going and it's accurate and that you're not being over or underpaid. Yes, sir.
Are you gonna just download the worksheet to class documents?
Yeah, it'll be all
Okay.
documented. The pay stub, the pay stub that you're going to use to answer the questions, and then a front back that's got the question.
Okay.
It also has some terms, you know, what's FICA, which is Social Security, you know, Medicare, you know, has some terms in there to be
All right.
with. So you guys that maybe are already working for an outfit that you're getting a pay stub, probably already know some of this. All right. Any other questions or comments?
Sir, question.
Oh,
So if I say I stop working, but like I do in real life and like I do stuff like DoorDash and stuff like that, can I still sign up for unemployment because I can't get like appointments for my real job?
Nah, well, I don't think you can. Cause some of my boys, they had to stop doing DoorDash because just to get that unemployment check. So no, I don't think you can do that.
So I would have to stop doing like Cutco and all that.
Yeah, I believe so. And then, but like you're gonna be making way more. Like my God, like they making like 800 or like something.
That's what I'm saying.
So
But-
I mean, honestly, I don't know. I don't think you can because you have hours. But like, yeah, because they had to stop doing like certain jobs just to get that, you know, because you have to have a certain amount of hours or like some.
yeah,
like,
I
I'm
think
not
you
like
can't.
that.
I don't know all the employment laws, but I don't think you could be considered a temporary employee. It has to be a permanent employment. And if you've got, you know, if you've got two jobs going on, you get fired or laid off from one, but you still have the other, I don't believe you would qualify for unemployment. But I'm definitely not an expert on the unemployment rules and laws, and I'm not sure if they've been altered or amended considering the current circumstances.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. Anything else? All right. Everybody, make sure you do the exercise before Thursday, so I don't have to harangue you. I'll have it uploaded here by, hopefully by 1:15. And otherwise, see you on Thursday.
Sounds good, Coach.
All right. We'll see you.
See you, sir.